Let's unbox a candle from Curated Scents LLC. I love me a good smelling candle, but I'm not going to have a candle inside my house that is not all natural and all clean ingredients because the aroma and the smells that I'm ingesting is so important to me. This is an all natural, amazing smelling, relaxing, and healing candles. They are a Cleveland-based candle company, and they work with a licensed aromatherapist to create all-natural, amazing smelling candles, which are specifically designed not to only fill our space with wonderful aromas, but also to promote relaxation throughout the olfactory system. They use recycled liquor and wine bottles as the vessel, and if that's not your thing, they also have other vessels as well. Make sure you give their page a follow, check them out. I am obsessed with how much of my space. I'll go ahead and show you the area where I put it. I put it in this area and it made it smell in the whole entire house. So here's my living room and I put it in here and you can smell it literally all the way in my kitchen. They have the coolest designs, so this is an amazing gift idea, especially for those friends that have their specific drinks that they love to go to. Make sure you give them a follow and save this video to reference later.
What up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Curated Topics, brought to you by Curated Scents LLC. We are on episode 30, y'all. Episode 30. I just want to take this opportunity to just kind of reflect. This is now episode 30 and I appreciate you all for rocking with. When I first started this out, I did not know where it was going to go. I didn't know all of what I wanted to do. I didn't even know if I was going to do 30 episodes, especially with the motivational content. But as I'm going, I am inspired to keep going. So I just wanted to say that I appreciate you all for subscribing. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. Check us out. We building each other up over here. I usually say that part all at the end, but you know what? I'm feeling grateful today. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody and let's get started with the show. So we gonna start it off how we always do. We got candle of the evening. What we got today? We have a Terra Serena Prosecco wine bottle. Boom. Now, if you watch my live, can y'all see that? If you watched my live a couple days ago, I showcased my second wickless candle, and this is the third. Man, I'm really struggling with this orientation here today. Sorry, y'all. It's been a long day. But anyway, I have made a wickless candle. This is for a customer who cannot burn candles within their home, so they asked if I could do wickless, and you know what? You asked for it and we try to find a way to accommodate you. That's how we do over here at Curated Scents LLC. I went wickless with this, so they have a candle warmer. They're going to sit this on top of the candle warmer and let it rock. And what scent we got in here today? I am going to smell it. Hold on. Whew. This right here is one of our premium scents. This scent is called Orange Sleepytime. Now, this scent is one of our more popular scents. It is actually part of our relaxation therapy collection. And this scent is a proprietary blend of mostly orange oil and a few very soft florals. And the mixture, as I said before, it's a proprietary blend, so I can't tell you everything, but it is specifically mixed and specifically designed to promote relaxation and to calm the mind and body to ensure a good night's sleep. Now, when you go to light these, when you do have a wicked candle and you go to light these, make sure you blow it out before you fall asleep. Don't want you waking up to any danger. And with all of your candles, make sure that when you go to light them, you only leave them on for about an hour or two. You want to blow them out, and then what you do is you swirl the bottle a little bit and let the wax evenly melt around in the candle. And even with the wax being just melted and no candle, like no wick lit, you're still going to get scent throw within your room. You're still going to fill your space with the aroma. that's a good way to save on your candles. Now, we over here at Curated Scents, we want you to use your candles, we want you to burn them, but we also want you to do so safely, and we want you to get the most out of your experience. Now, these candles are already long lasting, but hey, make them last a little bit longer. So we're giving you these tips and tricks just so you can have a wonderful experience with your candle. So as I was saying before, you want to make sure that you have a nice thick amount of melted wax, and then just blow your candle out, swirl it around, and let the aroma spread throughout the room. And that's how you save a little bit on your candle. Also, it's how you get to be safe in your environment, especially with the relaxation candles. Sometimes, man, like I have lit one of these before. I've had a couple of the Orange Sleepytimes, up in my room for myself, and man, they work. Let me tell you. Because I be ready to doze off, and I have to jump up real quick so I can blow it out and be like, all right, cool, I'm safe to go to bed. They really do help, but they really help calm the mind, calm the body, and the spirit. And I really, really enjoy these in particular, especially on a stressful day or something like that, where you're just trying to unwind and create a nice, soft, relaxing space for yourself. So make sure you go and check us out at curatedsentsllc.com. Get you one. We have the Valentine's Day sale going on right now. I'm actually going to update the website this evening so that it reflects that, but we do have the Valentine's Day sale going on right now. Make sure you check it out. Fellas, get something nice for your lady. Earn those brownie points, brother. You have to stimulate all the senses. When you go to take her out for a nice meal, or, bring her back home for dessert, make sure you got a candle to light so that she can really experience it all. Pause. That was a little crazy. But make sure that you have all the senses covered. So that's taste, touch, and smell. Bring in the candle, man, and get the smells going. Set the vibe right. Ladies, if you want to treat your guy, Valentine's Day is for everybody, not just the ladies, but the men too. If you want to treat your special guy to something nice, get him a cologne scented candle. I'm telling you, you want them vibes to be high. Especially, hey, I know some ladies who really enjoy the masculine scents and the masculine aromas. Hey, get you one. I'm telling you, you heard it here first. And not only that, you heard it in the video before this first. Really. That's where you heard it first. You heard it from me second. Anyway, let's get on with the show. So, I want to start it off. I want to talk about sports. So the Cavs have made some big changes recently. Shout out to all my Cavs fans out there. But, and I got to give him his flowers. I was sad to see him go. The Cavs traded away DeAndre Hunter to the Sacramento Kings for Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. Now, I'm just going to start it off like this. I don't agree with this trade. I read a lot of reports and heard a lot of people talking about how this trade helps us in terms of our salary cap and all of that. It gives the Cavs a huge salary break, and it brings us under the second apron or whatever that means. I'm not really sure what that means fully, but I don't really care what that means, to be honest with you. I don't care what that means. I think that having DeAndre Hunter on this team was one of our key X factors when it comes to games against bigger teams. A lot of these teams, they have an answer for, or they try to have an answer for, Donovan Mitchell. They try to have an answer for Evan Mobley. And DeAndre Hunter was that guy who, he might get slept on a little bit. He might be the third or fourth scorer for our team, but he could have that breakout game, which is pivotal when it comes to late in the season or playoffs, those sorts of things. So I'm really kind of disappointed in this move, especially with the pickup that we made. We picked up Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. No disrespect to these guys. Dennis Schroeder, this is like his 8th or 9th team, and he's a quality player, but he wasn't producing like DeAndre Hunter. And DeAndre Hunter's having a down year, and he's still producing more than both of these people. I don't even know who Keon Ellis is. And like I said, all due respect, you're in the NBA, I'm not. But I just don't know who he is. I was reading his stats, and he averages like 5 points. DeAndre Hunter averages 14, and that's in a down year. Playing for us last year, he averaged 19, almost 20 points per game, and was in the running for Sixth Man of the Year. So this just doesn't make much sense to me. As I said before, I understand that the emergence of Jalen Tyson and some other players, Naquan Tomlin, all those people, I understand that they deserve more playing time. But if you look at the last 4 or 5 game stretch that DeAndre has played in, he has still produced at a high clip, even with decreased minutes. In the game against the Lakers, he had 19 points in 21 minutes. There was another game we played, either Phoenix or the Magic. He might have sat for one of those games, but one of those games he scored 20 points in 26 minutes. I don't understand why you get rid of a quality player, especially after we only had him for 1 year. I thought last year that trading for him was an exceptionally good move. I don't see what we're doing here. And maybe it's because we're going to make another trade. I've never been a fan of blowing up a team after you built it. You have to give these guys time to build up chemistry. And I think that we had great chemistry last year. We didn't perform as well as we wanted to in the playoffs, but that was because of some unfortunate injuries and things like that. We performed well throughout the season though. And, we were in a position where you should look to build on the chemistry, not rebuild. And I think this move here, I think it takes away from the deepness of our team. We had a deep team dynamic at every position. And now we're kind of overloaded on the guard side of the game. And I just don't think it works out that well. Like I said before, we're seeing Jalen Tyson emerge as a very quality player for us. But that doesn't mean you throw away the other guy. The other guy is proven especially over the course of the last few years, that he is a quality player as well. So why not have more quality players than you just get rid of one? I don't understand that. Now, I do get it. He's having a down season, but we're still seeing production from him. And as I said before, he's picked it up over the last 4 or 5 games that he's been in. So I'm just not quite understanding. I think this move further disrupts our continuity as a team. I think it disrupts the chemistry as a team. And it goes more to the theory from last season. Letting go of Ty Jerome really hurt our team chemistry. He and Ty Jerome played together in college. And when they were on the floor together, you saw some of that chemistry again. And that's why we were so successful last year. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the Cavs are doing. Maybe we'll see before the trade deadline happens. I really want us to succeed. I think this year was our best shot at that, especially with, Jason Tatum being out. And I think that the East is just wide open, and I think we get into this mode of we have these emotional responses because we aren't doing so well, and we panic. And so we make moves because we have panicked as an organization when, sometimes you just build on what you have. You learn your lessons, you allow reason to kick in, and you learn from what you have. You build on what you have, and you learn from the previous experience. And I think we just made an emotional decision because, at the time we were not doing so well. We were in like 7th place, but now we're all the way in 4th place after going on a little bit of a run. So as I said before, you have to be able to look at things logically and look at things and reason, and not just make these moves simply because you're in a panic or you want to jump on the latest trend or whatever. And that's kind of going to bring us into the motivational side of what we're talking about. But just to close up on the Cavs, You know, I want us to succeed and I want us to do well. And I don't think this trade, I don't think it helped either team, to be honest. I really don't think it helped DeAndre Hunter either. You just sent him to the team for his career to be over. Like, who cares about the Kings? They are almost in last place in the West. And I mean, they're getting a quality player, but it's not like they're going to do anything in the next, who cares? I think we let go of a player that we could really build off of, and I'm not liking it. But what I am liking is how Jarrett Allen played in the last game. I am liking that. Now, amidst all these trade rumors and all these people talking about Jarrett Allen is soft, Jarrett Allen just showed you how dominant of a center that he can be when the ball is put in his hands in the right time and at the right place, and when you play through him. Now, we had lost the previous game to the Portland Trail Blazers, and I may have talked about it. You know, I said, why are you not getting Jarrett Allen the ball in the block? He is actually a dominant center, and not because he plays like Jokic or you know, Chet or anybody like that. He plays old school basketball in terms of his position. He's got the little jump hook. He's got the big man floater. He can do some moves in the post. He can dunk on you. And he showcased all of those skills in this last game against the Portland Trail Blazers. And that is what I want to see. That is what I like to see. And I really like that from him. You know, these guys hear all these rumors. You might think that they don't pay attention to social media, and there are some who don't. You know, Kawhi Leonard is an example of that. He didn't have social media for the longest. But there are some guys who they see this stuff and, you know, they have something to prove. So I want to give Jarrett Allen his flowers. He actually had set a career high with the 40 points. And then he has 17 rebounds on top of that. This is what happens when you play him the right way. Are you listening, Kenny Atkinson? Are you listening, Cavs front office? If anybody knows any of those guys from over there, show them this video and this part specifically. This is how you get production out of guys. This is how you play to somebody's strength. And that's what you have to do if you want to win in this league. You know, yeah, we rely a lot on Donovan Mitchell, but he doesn't have to score 50, 71, and 48 every single game for us to be successful. There are other quality guys on this team. When you utilize them in the right way, when you play to their strengths, and when you use them in those X factor positions, that's how you get out successfully. That was something that we did more of last year than we are this year. And I'm glad to see Jarrett Allen saying, you know what, give me the ball. I'm going to be the X factor in this game, and they're not going to stop me. So big ups to Jarrett Allen. Great job. And keep on, man. Keep on. Show them that you belong here. Show them why we love you here in Cleveland. And show them you ain't soft. You are not soft. 40 points ain't soft. 17 rebounds ain't soft. So keep it going, man. Love the hustle. Love the production. Love the execution. Keep on going. We're gonna get into the motivational side of the video today. I told you all I wanted to start with the emotional intelligence series. So I'm gonna title this first video The Journey. Emotional intelligence is a journey. It's also a battle. So I want to talk about your senses right quick. When you think, when you hear, when you feel, when you taste, when you smell, our bodies go through a journey and a battle. And that both includes emotion and reason. How many of you all have experienced a crisis in your life? Now, I want you to think about that crisis that you went through or that event that you experienced, and think about the emotions that you went through during that time. Think about, when did reasoning kick in? When did logic kick in during that moment, during that crisis? I want you to think about that crisis or that moment that you were going through. Think about, when did reasoning kick in? when did reasoning start for that situation? And what emotions did you feel before the reasoning kicked in? There's a reason that I say, think about when did your emotions kick in before the reasoning? Because oftentimes that is what happens. Emotions happen before we reason and think of things logically. When we experience an event or a crisis or really any moment in time, there is an internal battle for control that takes place within us, and that battle is between our reason and logic and our emotional state. How we respond is based on which one wins out. So does emotion win out and we respond emotionally, or does reason and logic win out and we respond logically? When emotion wins out and that dictates our response or our behavior, that can be to our detriment. I'll use a personal example. When I was at my old job, one piece of advice that I got from my boss was, hey, don't take things so personally. And I like to think of myself as a pretty reasonable person. I'm pretty logical, but I'm human just like everybody else. So there will be times where, sometimes things will be said or something like that, and you could see the emotional response on my face. I didn't always act on it, but you could see the emotional response on my face. And that piece of advice really helped me. It was like, okay, sometimes things aren't a personal attack on me, or it's not simply about me. So learning to control myself more emotionally helped me out. Okay, well, I need to go about things this way. But it also caused me to think more logically and to reason so that I could figure out how to navigate the situation better. Now, sometimes an emotional reaction, it can be justified and it can be beneficial. So in the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0, they use an example of a guy named Butch. And Butch is a surfer, and he goes out to surf like he does each week. And this particular time, as he is out there on his surfboard, he encounters a shark. The shark comes up to him and tries to have Butch for lunch. Pause. And it talks about the emotional responses that he goes through when dealing with the shark. Now, his initial reaction, Butch was in shock and he froze. And as the shark got closer to him, ready to pounce, he then processed what was going on and then utilized his emotions to kick into gear. Now, he had to reason with himself. He had to think, all right, what's going on? Because as I said before, he was in shock. That moment of shock was detrimental to him because he froze. He was not able to move right away. Now, once reason kicked in, he had another emotional response, which was most likely fear, but also anger, which drove him to take his surfboard, poke the shark in the face. He punched the shark, and then the other part of the reasoning and logic, okay, get on your surfboard and swim away. And Butch was able to survive that situation. Now, that's a moment where he experienced both. One emotion, the fear and the shock, it was to his detriment. He could have gotten eaten. He was almost shark food. But the other emotional response, the anger, the fear, I would say more of the actionable fear, the fear that drives you to do something, and the anger really kicked him into gear. He wanted to survive. So it's about how you respond to these moments in time in your life, and are you able to control yourself emotionally in order to respond in a beneficial way? Now, how many of us really would have been able to get out of that sense of shock and that sense of fear? I don't know. This is one reason I don't surf. But I commend him for, all right, you took however many milliseconds to reason with yourself and say, hey, I got to get about this situation. I got to get little, and I got to get little fast. If you know what get little means, pause, that means you escape and dip on up out of there. So good on Butch. But anyway, back to the topic. So part of the human condition is dealing with your emotions effectively on a daily basis. And this can be challenging for everyone. Our brains are wired to give emotions the upper hand. Now, what does that mean? How do emotions win out? Well, all of your senses, I'm going to get I'm going to get scientific here for a second, but all of your senses send electrical signals through your body and up to your brain where they are processed. The signals enter your brain via the spinal cord. Your spinal cord is part of your neck and the base of your skull, and all those signals have to travel all the way up to your frontal lobe, which is right behind your forehead, and that's where your thoughts are processed in terms of logic and reason. So the frontal lobe is where your reasoning and logic centers are found. Now, in between, there is space between the frontal lobe and the spinal cord. That space, that space in between there, that is called the limbic system, and that is where your emotional center of the brain is. Now, these electrical signals, they have to go on a journey because they're traveling through your emotional center to get to your reasoning and logical center. This is why a lot of the times you experience an emotional reaction first. This signaling journey is why most things cause an emotional reaction before they are processed and before reasoning and logic kicks in. You ever heard anybody say hindsight is 20/20? Well, yeah, you act strictly based off of emotion, or you have an emotional response to something, and then you give it a little time, and then you actually thought it through, and you're like, oh, I could have went about this differently. That is because whatever sensory information you have taken in, it travels through your emotional center first. So you are likely to develop some sort of emotional reaction to something before you have thought it through. And here's the important thing about that. So the rational center of your brain, it cannot stop the emotions that you feel, which are caused by the limbic system. It can't stop it. Now, these two areas influence each other, and they maintain communication between each other. So you can have an emotional response to something and then think it through. You don't have to act on your emotional response. Because you have an emotional response, it then talks to the reasoning and logic center of your brain, and they talk to each other, and your reasoning and logic center might be like, whoa, let's not do that. Let's take a second and think about what's going on here before we just react, right? That is where emotional intelligence comes in. Emotional intelligence requires effective communication between the rational and the emotional centers of the brain. So why are we even talking about emotional intelligence? Well, emotional intelligence has been found to be the driving force behind success. This was found after a study was done. This study measured the rate of success due to measured IQ. They looked at a certain number of people who were found to have high IQs, and they found that people with high IQs outperformed people with average IQs about 20% of the time. That sounds reasonable. 20%. Okay. But on the flip side, when they studied people with average IQs, they found that people with average IQs outperformed the people with high IQs by 70%. Now that's a much larger ratio. This changed the way that scientists think about success and what contributes to success. It shows that it's not always about what you know. Sometimes it's about who you know and how you can relate to others, and who can relate to you, and whether or not these people want to buy into what you know. So this study changed what people think about success. Originally it was, hey, if you got a high IQ, you're probably going to be more successful. And that's still something that you could say. It's not guaranteed, but it is something that you could say. But instead, we have actually found that, hey, if you have a high EQ, where you're more emotionally intelligent, that's where you're more likely to be successful. When you're able to get more people to buy into who you are and what it is that you know and what it is that you can provide, that's when you start to see success. Do you all remember, I talked about in a previous episode, one of my favorite episodes of Young Sheldon, and I talked about how in that show, Sheldon is a character with an extremely high IQ, but he went with his twin sister to a scientific research study, and He could understand some of what was going on, but he could not understand the social cues and the little nuances during the study. Meanwhile, his sister, she understood everything immediately, and she understood all the emotional and social things that were happening during the test, and not only during the test, but between the researchers in real time. And she's giving the researchers tips on what to do in real time so that they can get their own personal outcomes. And they were willing to listen to her, and it worked. So it just goes to show that EQ, or emotional intelligence, it's very important when it comes to not only knowing yourself, but also knowing others and using that in order to be successful. So that's why we're going to talk about this. We want to build each other up. We're going to talk about ways to be successful and ways to improve ourselves so that we can get there. In this series, we're going to discuss how to increase your EQ and your emotional intelligence. We're going to cover different topics like self-awareness, awareness of others, relating to others, and then strategies on how to increase both your self-awareness and your awareness of others in order to increase your emotional intelligence. That's going to be it for today's episode. I just want to do kind of an introductory to the topic of emotional intelligence and to the series in and of itself. Let's move on to some music. All right. Now, normally I talk about like rap and things like that for the music section. I'm actually going to switch it up on y'all. I'm kind of going a little bit old school with this, but our album of the week is actually an EP that was just released by Al Green. Now, Al Green is a classic artist, and he drops a classic EP that has 4 songs on it, and they are all smooth and fit that classic Al Green style. One of the reasons I love Al Green, now, I grew up listening to Al Green. I think we all have heard at least 2 or 3 Al Green songs before. We've all listened to some classic Al Green songs. I'm talking about Let's Stay Together, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, Love and Happiness. I know y'all have heard those. So he recently released an EP, and it is called To Love Somebody. And I think one of the songs in here might be older, or it might be like a remake, but I just love the smooth vibe and things like that. It's very chill, very relaxing, and I thought tonight would be a good time to talk about it. One, it also just came out not too long ago, but with the theme of the relaxation therapy from the candle that we had here, the wickless candle, also just kind of, I've been in a little bit of an old school mood starting the week, so I wanted to talk about this album that just dropped, and go check it out. Go give it a listen. I think that it is reminiscent of classic Al Green, just smooth vibes. Some of the lyrics got you thinking about some things, and it's just a great little EP to listen to. So I want to talk about why I loved Al Green. Now, as I said before, we've all heard an Al Green song, and I grew up listening to Al Green. My grandmother used to play him all the time. My mom used to play him all the time. When I really, really got into Al Green was actually in college. I used to listen to Al Green when I would study. I would put him on, just not too loud, but just a little softly in the background, especially on those nights when I was staying up. I was staying up and I was studying for long periods of time, sometimes all night. And it was something where this is smooth and nice, not too hyped up to where I can't pay attention. I don't necessarily have to listen to the lyrics, or the lyrics don't, get me wrapped up in the song, but it's not so soft that I'm going to sleep. And so I used to put Al Green on just on repeat. And as I would study, or as I would work on a project or a paper or something like that late at night, this was like the perfect thing. And also, it wasn't so hyped that then once I was finished, I couldn't go to sleep. I've had those moments as well, where it's like, all right, I finished doing what I'm doing, but now I'm so amped up that I can't quite fall asleep. So this was that good in between music for me, where okay, I can put this on, and when I'm done, I can leave it on. I'm still feeling relaxed enough to wind down. That's why I chose this for this week's album of the week. Y'all go and check it out and let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Also, add to the discussion. I wanna encourage you all to add to the discussion. Drop some comments. Let me know what you think. Talk about a time where you had an emotional response to something. Were you able to utilize logic and reason to figure it out? Did those centers of your brain talk to each other? Or, what did you learn from that situation? Let's get the conversation started. I want to start doing more things where we get some conversations from the viewers. So, let's get that going. But that's all I got for today. I want to say thank you to my listeners. I appreciate you all for tuning in. I appreciate you all for sharing out the videos and all those sorts of things. I appreciate all the feedback that I've been receiving, whether that's in the comments or in the backgrounds. I want to say thank you to all my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Also, I'm going to play it at the end of this video, but tell me what y'all think about that review of the candles from the content creator I've been working with. Let me know what you think. I really enjoyed her response to the video. Also, did you notice she talked about how it filled up her space, but she hadn't even lit it yet? That's what I'm talking about. You need to get you one, okay? But that's all we got. That's all the time we got today. As I always say, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Have a good week, y'all.
Let's unbox a candle from Curated Scents LLC. I love me a good smelling candle, but I'm not going to have a candle inside my house that is not all natural and all clean ingredients, because the aroma and the smells that I'm ingesting is so important to me. This is an all natural, amazing smelling, relaxing, and healing candles. They are a Cleveland-based candle company, and they work with a licensed aromatherapist to create all natural, amazing smelling candles, which are specifically designed not to only fill our space with wonderful aromas, but also to promote relaxation throughout the olfactory system. They use recycled liquor and wine bottles as the vessel, and if that's not your thing, they also have other vessels as well. Make sure you give their page a follow, check them out. I am obsessed with how much of my space. I'll go ahead and show you the area where I put it. I put it in this area, and it made it smell in the whole entire house. So here's my living room, and I put it in here, and you can smell it literally all the way in my kitchen. They have the coolest designs, so this is an amazing gift idea, especially for those friends that have their specific drinks that they love to go to. Make sure you give them a follow and save this video to reference later.